After seeing Fantastic Four First Steps twice now, I can confidently say this is the kind of Marvel movie I have been waiting for. As a hardcore fan, it not only exceeded my expectations, but it also reignited my hope for the future of the MCU. With Thunderbolts recently being a fun watch, and now with this, there is enough evidence to prove that it's back on the right track. In this video, I'm breaking down why this film works so well, what it means for Marvel's direction going forward, and why First Steps feels like exactly that. A bold and exciting new beginning. A new beginning for Marvel that I believe is going to bring back a lot of the fan base that over the years has left due to various different reasons. Reasons of which I don't believe have any negative effect on this movie whatsoever, ranging from quantity over quality, needing to do homework to watch the film, or any sense of an idea that Marvel is simply just making this movie for the sake of it because the Fantastic Four name carries a good amount of weight within the Marvel brand. The best example to use when I think of this is the first Iron Man movie, what started the whole MCU. That had nothing surrounding it as far as needing to watch other stuff to enjoy it, and it represents a beginning for a new story with new characters that any fan of Marvel, casual or hardcore, can be interested in enough to want to go and see. That is easily one of its biggest strengths, is that it appeals to any demographic of a moviegoer who enjoys these kinds of superhero films. If you are also somebody who is still interested in the whole phases element of Marvel with how things are segmented in order, Fantastic Four First Steps represents the beginning of Phase 6, which is still crazy to even think about the fact that we've gotten that far. I think when fans hear about how good the movie is with that in mind, it makes them a little bit more interested to want to give it a chance and see that Marvel is potentially getting back on track. From a production perspective, Fantastic Four represents the second movie amongst the new leadership changes that Disney has gone through within the last several years, where their last round of leadership was stuck on the whole quantity over quality motto that they were running on all throughout from 2020 through till the last year in 2024. Thunderbolts was the first movie to see that leadership change have their eyes on the making of the film, and you can definitely tell that there is a major difference in the quality of films like Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four versus the other Marvel movie that came out this year in Captain America: Brave New World, which was the last movie that was made under the previous leadership. A film that feels like it has no sense of direction and also is way too generic for its own good in terms of its story. It's a movie that I personally thought was just decent, but I'm not afraid to admit that it did have those issues. It felt every need in the world to try and make itself a Captain America movie, but also make itself a sequel to The Incredible Hulk with how much it was trying to interweave storylines from that movie into Sam Wilson's first time of holding the mantle of one of Marvel's biggest heroes. Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four both do what Marvel has desperately needed for a long time now, which is a sense of focus. They tell their own stories without the absolute need of connecting in the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe through the main plot of the film. It is only when we get to the post-credit scenes, which is when they tease the next upcoming project, which is what a lot of the movies during the Infinity Saga did so well with. If this is the kind of direction that fans of Marvel can hope to see moving forward with the rest of their films, then I think a lot of people will start to get back on board and go out to support them in droves. I don't think it goes without saying, but easily the biggest thing that is going to drive it home for a lot of people is the main core of our four characters: Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm. If I had a nickel for every time I said to myself while watching, "That's how you do it," I would be richer than ever. This new iteration takes these characters and their story seriously to where you can actually feel something. When Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Ebon Moss-Bachrach were announced to be playing these characters, I was very excited because Marvel went out and found four great actors who have found a nice footing within the world of film with how big their star power is and how much moviegoers and television watchers love seeing them on screen. For a first-time showing of one of Marvel's most important groups of characters, I think they all did a very good job with what they were given. This is one of those movies where if even one of the four main cast doesn't work, it puts a lot of pressure on the other three to carry the weight needed for audiences to be invested in them. Thankfully, no one had any issues, in my opinion, as far as actor to character. This isn't going to be a full-fledged breakdown of each character, but I enjoyed everyone equally. Pedro brought exactly what you needed from Reed Richards. He's smart, kind-hearted and nerdy all wrapped in one. Vanessa is full-on embracing family and mother mode with how she has to handle having a child and protecting it at all costs. Joseph Quinn strikes the perfect balance of being comedic relief and not fully cheesy like Chris Evans' version was. Ebon Moss-Bachrach as Ben Grimm is maybe the one out of the four that I could have used a little bit more from. There were instances where I saw where they were going with developing his character, but they never fully captured it. And for the hell of it, I'll include Herbie, the robot, into this. I love when robot characters are done very well, and he had his moments and was only needed for when he was called for it. I definitely think that there is room to say that they all could have used an extra 10 to 15 minutes of runtime to establish a few more moments of character development, but with what we were given in just under 2 hours of runtime, I was fully invested throughout the entire thing. Each of them have their own kind of personality and identity that is also represented well within their power set in what they are able to do. And for me, that's a great segue into talking about the film's biggest accomplishment, which is fulfilling what every movie needs to have, an identity or personality, depending on which term you like to use the most. What do you want the movie to express to the audience? What do you want the characters on the page to feel like when they are translated to the big screen? How do you want to make other aspects of the filmmaking process represent the world of your movie well enough to be interesting to the audience? These are all important questions that factor in heavily, especially with superhero movies that, if in the worst case scenario, become too generic for the liking of the hardcore fans and the casual moviegoers. I think it's fair to say that several recent Marvel movies in the last however many years, whether from Sony or from Marvel, have suffered from that a little bit. But where Fantastic Four could be generic, it takes that and does something more. Everything on the production is evidence of that, from the cinematography, the practical sets showcasing the 60s to 70s aesthetic, and then something as bold and beautiful as Michael Giacchino's musical score, which is probably one of the best that Marvel has ever done in my personal opinion. One of the ways that you know if music in a film is good or not is if after hearing it, you are constantly humming it, and you can hear it in your head even without being able to listen to it. And the best part of all this is that it is consistent throughout the movie in how it is showcased. I never felt like anything was ever out of place at any point, even though I would say that you're not used to seeing this kind of thing in superhero movies in general. The different style of it all in how it's presented is unique enough to the audience that I think everybody going into this movie was curious to see how it would be translated on screen, and I think they knocked it out of the park. Visually and through the CGI, it is some of the best ever put on screen by Marvel, which is saying something because CGI lately has been used so poorly in many movies, some of which are mainly superhero films. The name that you certainly won't hear a lot of people talking about, especially since I've been talking with other people about it online, is Matt Shakman, the director. Matt has yet to reach the kind of status in his career where his name is the one that you will talk about a lot, but I think this movie is going to certainly help that conversation a lot more. A career that, if you go through his IMDb and look at what he's directed, is 99% filled with television, where Fantastic Four is the first full-fledged film that he has ever done. When talking about a film directorial debut, that is as impressive as it gets, especially when handling a superhero property that is immensely important. Nothing on screen works if it's not well handled by the director, and I must say, either he is a mega fan of Interstellar, or so was everyone else who made the film, because that space sequence after they escape Galactus the first time is straight up ripped out of Interstellar. I wonder if any of you watching noticed that or not, and let me know in the comments if you did. Matt Shakman produced and directed all of WandaVision, and you can tell this guy has a style that he likes within the worlds that these two different projects are able to craft. He seems to fit well with the types of tones that these movies and characters inhabit as well, and I just wish that more people would talk about him, because like I just said, nothing truly works unless he is on his A game. I think the other thing that someone like Matt Shakman and Marvel as a whole are starting to come back around on is that they can embrace the comics that these characters come from and also embrace the villains themselves. Since the MCU has started, it's not completely made unaware by the fans that villains are a dime a dozen in good quality in these films. Every now and then, you'll get one that is so good that they go on to become the best overall character in the MCU, depending on who you are. Characters like Thanos and even Loki, where he started out, have shown that when it comes to truly embracing the character, along with getting a good actor to play them, you have a recipe for success. Here in Fantastic Four, you get a lot of that with Galactus, played and voiced by Ralph Ineson, a character that until today has never fully been given the respect it deserves, especially since the last time he showed up on screen, he was just reduced to a giant fucking cloud. Granted, in 2007, the CGI for recreating that kind of character on screen would probably have been one of the worst CGI creations in history, so it probably would have been best for them not to try and depict that on screen, which makes it even better that we've waited till now to see the actual Galactus for who he is. This towering and terrifying being that doesn't give a shit what you think or feel and will bury you with all his power. The way they bring him into the movie was probably the best possible thing they could have done in my eyes. One of the factors that allows for that is Silver Surfer, Shalla, played by Julia Garner, a character that I guess you could consider a villain or a good guy depending on the situation, but it's also a character that I certainly didn't expect to actually feel for a lot more in this film with what they were given of her. An actual backstory that certainly showcases that this iteration is also a lot better than the 2007 version. In general, I guess it's pretty easy to say that Rise of the Silver Surfer is just what Fantastic Four First Steps is, but just in a better way. A movie that takes its time with these characters and doesn't feel the need to distract itself with being an origin story or doing other things that you could definitely tell were put into the film because of the time that the film came out in. I think that's one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people back in the day didn't embrace those original two films, even if they had qualities in them that are certainly memorable, like Chris Evans' version of Johnny Storm, which is certainly a product of its time with just how cheesy and over the top it was. I prefer Joseph Quinn's iteration just because, as I mentioned earlier, it's a good balance of everything. He loves women but isn't over the top about it, and is also not an idiot who can just be the comedic relief and nothing more like Chris's version was. I watched both the original films for the first time before seeing First Steps, and it is certainly a night and day difference just how much better First Steps handles its characters and its villains. I haven't talked about any major spoilers throughout this video just because it is so soon after the film released, but I do want to talk about the post-credit scene, so if you are somebody who hasn't seen the movie yet, click off now until you get to the outro. Now, I'm somebody who is not well versed in the overall Marvel lore when it comes to many different characters, especially villains. The post-credit scene shows us a 4-year time jump as Franklin Richards is grown up just a little bit. He and Sue, while having a reading session, are greeted by none other than the backside of Dr. Doom as Franklin is looking up to him, trying to touch his face with his mask off, and it cuts to black with a message saying that these characters will return in Avengers Doomsday come next year in December. It's a post-credit scene that I don't think a lot of people were not assuming was a possibility to be shown, given the connections that a character like Dr. Doom has to the Fantastic Four. I'm sure if it had been anything else, it might have come as a surprise for some people, but the thing that makes it so interesting is that they didn't show a face, even though we know who's playing that character. Thunderbolts has a post-credit scene showing the Fantastic Four ship entering Earth 616 atmosphere in our main timeline. Given First Steps takes place on Earth 828, it's making everybody wonder, how did they get into another universe? Time travel is not something that is ever established within the movie, even though teleportation is. Clearly, something is done by Dr. Doom where he is able to harness the power of jumping through into another universe. I think some people will theorize that he uses Franklin Richards as a hostage to get our main group of characters into the other Earth. Although I could be wrong about that, and all you comic nerds out there are probably theorizing of much better ways of how all of them are able to get into Earth 616. RDJ on Instagram lately has been teasing a lot of possibilities with what version of Dr. Doom he could be playing, and showing some comic runs in his stories. Again, I'm not well versed in any of these stories, and so with what this post-credit scene is showing off, I'm wondering how much of any of this stuff is able to tie in with what we are going to see come next year when Avengers Doomsday releases. The possibilities of the future are endless as far as what fans are going to try and come up with, but one thing is for certain, we are certainly getting back on track with where we need to be with Marvel. We aren't getting another Marvel movie until Spider-Man 4 comes out next summer, which I personally am still dubious if that's even going to come out, given they haven't started shooting the movie yet. All the rumors and announced cast members who will be in the film playing the characters that they are playing are showing that the film seems like it's going to be its own story as well, like Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts. It'll probably have a post-credit scene teasing how these characters factor into Doomsday as well. Once that's done, it's all Avengers from there on out. Thanks to Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, I now have joy in talking about the movies at least, and Fantastic Four did so much right for me as far as reinvigorating my hype for what the future holds within the Marvel brand. And there you have it. That is my commentary and analysis of Fantastic Four First Steps. What do you all think of my commentary, and what was your favorite moment from the film? Leave your comments down below. Thank you all for stopping by my channel. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you are new here. here and turn on that notification bell. I'm trying to build a community on here, and your support would be appreciated. That's a wrap, folks. I hope everyone here has a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you all soon for the next video.